Hello, and welcome to this on-demand webinar. Get started with Structure PPM. Here's the agenda for this session. We'll start by answering the question, what is Structure PPM? The majority of our time will be spent demoing the product. Specifically, we will show you how Jira data flows into Structure. You'll learn about multi-level work orchestration with flexible hierarchies. We'll explain how to use Structure attributes to get more than just Jira data. Then, using what you've learned, there will be an example of a common use case, sprint management. You'll find out different ways of managing your structures once you've created them. And we'll end by talking about Structure's integrations with other Tempo apps. And here's some quick housekeeping before we get started. Since this is an on-demand webinar, feel free to skip ahead to specific sections that interest you or that you want to learn more about. If you have any questions while you are watching, you can reach out to our team in the corresponding link on this page. At the end of this on-demand webinar, we'll provide you with some next steps to keep you going in your learning journey. So let's answer the question, what is Structure PPM? Structure PPM is the most flexible project and program management solution for Jira. With Structure, you can manage work items, track progress, and report on work across your portfolio and organization. Team members, as well as management, benefit from this, as everyone gets real-time overviews across all levels of work. Teams can keep using their preferred work methodology, such as Agile, Waterfall, or Hybrid. And with all your data in one place, Structure can really be your main interface to Jira. I'll now hand it over to Alex, who will jump into Structure and show you how to get started with it.
Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Getting Started with Structure PPM on Cloud. The goal of this webinar is to present you what Structure PPM is and how to effectively use it for managing your day-to-day work in Jira. So let's start from the beginning. Structure PPM is an application to Jira that allows you to operate your Jira data. And more specifically, it allows you to look at your Jira data at different angles and different perspectives, regardless of what kind of use case you're working with. It can be project management, it can be portfolio overview, it can be individual sprint management, or planning over program increment. In any case, you have all the information from the Jira itself, organized in neat hierarchies with all necessary information presented as columns. So let's see how you can create your hierarchy and build a dedicated view for your use case. I'm going to create a new structure. We have two options here to choose from. The speed mode is a way to build simple, straightforward hierarchies. And the power mode provides the whole toolset of structure capabilities to organize your work in any way you want. So I will continue with the power mode. I'll give my structure a name and click create. So we start with an empty structure board, which we will step-by-step populate with different data. There are different ways to create your hierarchies, but the one that we always recommend is using automation generators or specific rules that define what kind of information you see in structure and how it behaves. I will start with the insert generator to add my base or first level of my hierarchy. And when we work with structure, we're always thinking from a hierarchical perspective. So this is the first level, and then I'll add additional levels on the top or below to elaborate my view. Each generator provides multiple options to choose from. In this case, we are deciding how we will bring information to our first level. It can be basic insert, which is just selectable options similar to how Jira filters work. Jira query speaks by itself. An Agile boards option allows to use Jira boards as a base structure scope. I will use basic insert, and I'm selecting the project which I want my issues from, which is LM structure and Gantt. I'm selecting issue types, which would be epics, because I want epics on my first level, and I will leave other options empty. Now I have a view of my selected epics, and we can elaborate it by adding additional levels on top and below. For the sake of the example, let's first go down and add children to the current epics. We add sub-items with another generator called extend. Extending is based on existing relationships between items in Jira. So it can be parent-child relationships or issue links. I will demonstrate extending with issue links later, and for now we're choosing parent-child relationship. Here I will select what kind of child items I want to add. It can be items underneath Epic, which are stories, tasks, bugs, or subtasks, or children created in Jira plans. I will select first two options because this is how my dataset is organized. So now I have a simple three-level hierarchy dynamically created by two generators consisting of epic, story, and subtasks. It doesn't necessarily have to start from epics. You can build the same type of hierarchy starting from any issue types you have in your Jira. It can be built starting from initiatives, themes, features, anything that you have in your system. Let's quickly build another example. I will change my scope to have an issue type called theme on my first level. This is a custom issue type I created in Jira to represent very high level scope of work. I will also select status of the issues I want to see on my first level to be in progress. Now I know that my work breakdown structure in this case consists of themes, initiatives, and epics connected to each other by issue links. So to add subitems, I need another extend generator. This time it will be based on issue links connection. I'll select dedicated issue link type, the link direction, so the parent will be implemented by children. So now I have a 5-level hierarchy created by inserter and two extend generators, one extending items with issue links, and another with still hidden structure, extending epics with stories, tasks, and subtasks. Let's now look at building hierarchy from another perspective. Let's say I'm a project manager or team manager, and individuals in my team are working on stories. And we want to build up on that, creating additional levels on the top to see where the work is going into. To make this view, I first clean up everything we have and start from the scratch. So I add another insert generator. I'm going to use the GQL query this time. I will ask for a specific team's level work like stories, tasks existing in several projects. Just going to type the GQLs here. Now that we have stories level, let's add some levels on top. We will use group generator for that purpose. And again, there are multiple options we can choose from. And I will start by grouping by field. This option gives us the ability to choose almost any Jira field we have. So there is a lot of flexibility in the way we can build our hierarchy. I will start with grouping by epics, since it's a very standard way to organize your items in Jira. But we're not stopping here. We're going to slice and dice our view with additional attributes. I will add another group generator. This time I'll use grouping by assignee. This will show me what tasks my team members are currently working on. But let's say I also want to see how the work is distributed across different teams. I can visualize that with grouping by teams this time. I'm selecting one of the teams field I have, which is a custom Jira field I created specifically for this demonstration. I can rearrange the order of the generators, so the grouping levels would be visualized accordingly. And in this example, it would make more sense since we can see how individuals work on story levels and epics are organized by teams. So you can see how easily I can reshape information I have in my board, and I'm not limited in any way by the type of hierarchy I can build or the ways I can slice and dice the information I have. And to make this view a little bit more complex, I will add subtask underneath. Let's quickly look at other generators options we have. I will again simplify the view by deleting some of the generators, and the next generator we will look at is filter, which is self-explanatory. We filter out items that we don't want to see or that don't belong on particular levels. We have two options to choose from, filter by GQL query or filter by formula, and I will talk about formula a bit later. So the filter hides items that don't pass a certain criteria. A simple example I can use here is filtering by status. Let's say we don't want to see items in a completed status in our hierarchy. So I'll type status not equals done, which in my case indicates completed work, and those now should be excluded. We can check that by adding a status column, so there should be no items in done status. Another generator option is sorting, which is also self-explanatory. We organize our items in a particular order based on the common attribute. So we can use a Jira field for sorting or a formula. And again, I'm going to talk about formula in a couple of minutes. So I will select a field option. In most of the cases, rank is the attribute used to organize the order in our hierarchies. And it's a Jira rank that's used in Jira boards. But of course, it's absolutely possible to use any other Jira fields, would it be custom field or any standard field that may represent order of items in our view. So structure is always liably connected to Jira data. That means if we change something inside the structure, that change will be immediately propagated to Jira. So since my item is now organized by rank, and if I manually change the order of items in my hierarchy, that will automatically update the rank of that issue in Jira. Similarly, since my hierarchical levels are based on groupings by epics, moving stories between different epics would update this parent-child relationship existing in Jira. So I can reassign stories within structure to new epics easily. This ability to drag and drop in structure hierarchy can be disabled inside the automation generators, so we just need to uncheck this box, and ability to move items within this particular rule will be disabled. Let's now talk about columns. Columns represent information associated with the items in our hierarchy. There are three main types of columns we have in structure. Columns show information from Jira fields, and we can use almost all Jira fields to be presented as a column. Columns show information from integrated products, for example, Tempo timesheets or Tempo planner, and columns containing structure attributes. Examples of those are formula, structure fields, or progress. We will quickly overview all three of the types in this demo. I'm going to enable horizontal scrolling to automatically adjust my columns in the view. I will also move key column to the left side of the hierarchy just for the convenience. Let's start by adding columns with Jira fields first. We already have status, so we will also add assignee, themes, due date, and priority. So you can see how easily I can add any relevant Jira information into my view to build a holistic visualization of my process. As I mentioned before, structure is liably connected to Jira data, so I can update any value in any Jira fields, and that update will be immediately reflected in Jira. And vice versa, if someone changes values inside the Jira ticket, that value automatically will be updated in Jira as well. So we always will be on the same page. And multiple people working on the same data will always see the same information. Some columns have additional attributes that can easily be enabled. For example, if I click on the summary column header, I will be able to visualize additional attributes by selecting corresponding checkboxes. The type of information shown in some of the columns can be significantly changed based on the settings selected. For example, parent column. By default, only parents' keys are shown on children's level. But if we go into the column settings, we can add additional attributes like showing parents' priority, summary, and status, which very conveniently provides us with information about items parent, and we actually don't need those parent in the hierarchy. So we can very flexibly look at all the Jira information in the structure without creating complex custom hierarchies. Columns can also be used to organize information. In my current example, I have everything sorted by rank, but let's say I want to reorganize everything by due date. So I can click on the column header and use this column as a sorter attribute. So now everything is sorted by due date, and I can easily see which items are due next. In a similar way, I can reorganize everything by status by clicking on the status column and selecting sort option there. It's what we call the transformation or quick transformation, a change applied to a structure hierarchy on top of the generated content. But you can easily utilize both automation generators and transformations together. In this case, sorting by automation generator will be applied first, and then sorting by a transformation. And I will talk more about transformations in a couple of minutes. Let's now look at another column option. This will be structure attribute. Structure attributes are not Jira data. This is something that is calculated inside structure based on the information available in views, hierarchy, or other data that structure can access. We have a list of these columns available in columns menu. And the basic example of structure attribute is progress column. So the progress column, pretty self-explanatory, shows you the progress of your work. And if we go into the column settings, there are different attributes that this progress can be based on. Time tracking is a default one, but we can select any other available options there. So the progress calculation would suit your Jira workflow and process logic. Let's take another example and select a date field. Using this structure field, you can assign a date to your Jira items without really having those dates stored in Jira. So this can be a temporary start date or plan date. It can be used for preliminary planning or for scheduling items on a Gantt chart. These dates will be only visible to users working with Structure, but you can copy that value into the Jira field, which I will talk about in a couple of minutes. Let's look at another structure attribute example. This time it will be notes column. So notes are pretty much text field, which can also contain numbers. It can be comments, any type of notes you can add to an issue, some important feedbacks or remarks, which are visible inside Structure. People working with the same issues in another Structure boards would also see these notes and can add their own ones. Another popular example is time and status column. Time and status allows us to see how long an item spent in a particular status or multiple statuses, providing us with visibility on cycle times, lead times, and potential bottlenecks. Before moving forward, I will clean up a view a little bit so we would have more space to work with our next examples. The next attribute we will look at is formulas. Structure formulas, similar to Microsoft Excel scripting language, allows us to build various expressions, perform calculations, and highlight important information. It is not a full-fledged development language, though it has a similar aspect to it, like functions, variables, different properties and attributes. You can highlight a problematic work item, build health metrics, operate with different scoring models, and get other meaningful insights that otherwise are not easily seen from Jira data. You don't have to have a developer level knowledge to work with formulas. Its logic straightforward, and we have a comprehensive documentation explaining every aspect of it. So let's try creating some simple examples. I will start by looking at due date field. So you can just type due date and formula will automatically maps the Jira due date field to the variable I created. If I leave it as it is, it will just show me the date in millisecond format, which is a standard format in Jira for dates and durations. To switch it to more human readable view, I will change the output format of the formula to the time dates. Now let's add a logical condition to it. We can type if due date less than today, which means due date is in the past, give us some warning, like text overdue, for example. So now we can easily see which items are overdue based on the Jira field and condition we created. Same way, we can use story points field. I will type story points, and I will switch formula output format back to general. And then we add condition on top of that, like if story points, which means story points exist, there is a value in the field, return me the value itself. Else, give me a text warning that there is no value there. So similar to the due date example, we are bringing attention to missing information and potential data misalignment. As I already mentioned, we have a very thorough and comprehensive documentation of formulas. You can easily access it from the formula window itself, which will bring you to the corresponding documentation page. Here you can read all about the formula syntax and potential applications. There are also formula examples you can scroll through. Any of those examples can be copied and pasted into the formula window. So you can play around with it and see how the different syntax works and what different applications of formulas are there. There is also a list of pre-built formulas available in the columns menu, so you can add any of these and adjust it accordingly to your purposes or hierarchical setup. The formula can work not only with Jira data, but also with different types of relationships there. So we can access issue links and look at different dependencies or blockers. That means we don't have to add those items into the hierarchy to see the items that are blockers for my current scope. I can just add a formula column and list all of dependent items based on the issue link type and see everything right away in the need column. To add a visual component to formulas, we can use a special formatting language called Wiki Markdown, which can change text color, add background panels, emojis, and other visual attributes to bring attention to important information we have. I will copy-paste a pre-built example of formula for health metric, which is based on progress work items are currently in. I will also need to change output format to Wiki Markdown to make this work. So there is a lot of interesting things that Formula can help with, starting with highlighting important aspects of work to the very complex calculations and aggregating data on specific levels. We have a separate training sessions dedicated specifically to formulas and its usage, which we encourage everyone to look into. As you could see at the beginning, formula can also be used in generators to organize hierarchies. Let's look at a couple examples of how you can use formula there. I will again rebuild my hierarchy so it could better suit the examples. In the insert generator, I will add a GQL condition that will add the issues updated in the last month into the first level. Now, I want a segmental view on when these items were updated. So I want to have 3 buckets with corresponding work automatically placed there depending on when the update happened. So essentially, I want to see if items were updated in the last week, in the last 2 weeks, or later than last 2 weeks. I will do that by grouping by formula, which I have written in advance. So the formula will look into updated Jira field and create 3 categories depending on its value. And now we can see that work items are grouped by folders based on corresponding date intervals. And if I add any change right now, this item will be immediately placed under the recently updated category. Let's now quickly look at an example with filtering by formula. I will update my generated scope again, this time concentrating on epics on first level. I will also extend them with child items. So let's say we want to check for any inconsistency in our Jira data. In my case, I assume that I have some child items with status in progress or maybe even done, with the parent having status to do at the same time, which indicates I might have some misalignment with the parent-child statuses. To highlight the problem, I will filter out all the items except for the epics which status in to-do and their children having status in progress. I will use filter by formula option. And again, I'm going to paste the pre-built formula. This formula, as I mentioned, would find epics with status in to-do and children in different statuses. After applying the filter, I would only left with 2 epics with obvious inconsistency, and if I update the status of this epic, it should be also excluded, because now it fulfills the filter criteria. And to conclude with structure attributes columns, the last but not least are the columns from integrated Tempo solutions, which allows to see information from connected Tempo applications, such as Tempo timesheets and Tempo planner. We can show the logged and planned time as a columns, as well as other attributes, which can help get better insights on your time management and resource allocations. Now, as we're finally happy with all the columns we added, we can go and save this set of columns in a view, which can be set in Structure by default, and this view can also be shared with other people in your organization. Before we move forward, let's again change the hierarchical scope, returning back to the simple 3-level hierarchy with epics stored in subtasks. Now let's imagine we have everything we need in our view, we have a hierarchy, we have all supplementary information in our columns, but what if we need to quickly look at some subset of the information we have? Maybe we need to zoom in on the work assigned to a particular person, or we want to look at items that are still unresolved and require attention. Of course, we can rebuild the hierarchy, we can use another generators, but it's a bit overwhelming work to do it each time when you just quickly look at something. So specifically for that cases, Structure has quick transformations. These are also called quick groups and quick filters, and they are temporary changes that are applied on top of existing hierarchy. They are in a way similar to the generators we already used. The difference is they always applied after automation rules, and the change occurred is always local. That means multiple users can work with the same structure and apply their own set of quick transformations without disturbing each other. So the main hierarchy built with rules will stay the same, and you can adjust the view you have with quick filters and groupers specifically for you. So here, as an example, I added 2 groupers by assignee and by status, so I can quickly switch between those back and forth, looking at the same set of work at different angles, from the resource allocation view or from its statuses. Let's also add a result filter so I can quickly look at which items in my hierarchy have not been resolved yet. Let's imagine another situation. I have multiple teams working on this scope, and I want to be able to quickly switch between these two teams' work to see how they are progressing or are there any bottlenecks. To do that, I will create a new quick filter based on the teams field. And again, in my case, teams is just a custom field I created specifically for my test dataset. This filter will be for the team called Structure, and now I can see what this team works on and which items are currently unresolved. Now let's add a filter for another team, this time for the team Gantt, so we can easily zoom in on their particular scope. And if I enable filters for both teams together, I will be able to see the intersection of their work. So this specific epic is assigned to one team, but its children assigned to another team, meaning that both teams are contributing to it and responsible for its outcome. So quick transformations is an easy way to add most commonly used filters and groupers to your structure board. This way you can quickly switch focus between different contexts without going through multi-step scope adjustment. So now let's incorporate all the knowledge we acquired throughout this webinar and try building a new use case from scratch. I will clear everything out again so we could start from the blank view. The use case I want to create now is sprint planning or sprint management. So I want to see items from a dedicated Jira project organized by sprints with all the relevant information in columns, helping me to make right decisions based on corresponding data. Let's start with adding insert generator, and I will use basic insert. The project I want is sprint planning, and the work items type I'm looking for are stories and bugs. Now, as we have all the sprint action items on the first level, let's group it by sprints. So we use group generator and sprint Jira field. And I will also sort everything by rank. So this is my hierarchy, showing me several buckets with active sprints, future sprints, and the backlog. Now let's bring some data in columns. I will start, of course, from story points, so I could see relative estimations on my items. I will go into the column settings and enable aggregating data over that column. This would allow me to see the sum of story points from children's level on the parent level. In this case, I can see how many story points there is in each sprint. I definitely need progress column. We'll be using progress by status. I will also open its settings and select show in progress as percentage values. Let's also add status column. Definitely need assignees. Let's add fixed versions. And also epics column, so we could see where all the action items are going into. So that's a basic set of columns I can use to start managing my sprints and plan which items will go into the next iterations. The aggregated story points column would show me how many story points each sprint contains, so I can plan accordingly based on my team's velocity. I can use formula column to add some warning mechanism, highlighting when estimated velocity over sprint is exceeded. For this purpose, I brought a formula that contains hard-coded team's velocity, which will be compared to the current aggregated value of story points on sprint level. And if I plan more work than my team has capacity for, we would see warnings shown across problematic sprint. So I know for sure that this particular sprint is overbooked and I have to decrease the scope of work. I'm moving some of the items from this sprint and put it back into the backlog, so my team capacity wouldn't be exceeded anymore. I'm also renaming the formula column into capacity, so I would definitely understand what this column represents. Now, as a final touch, let's add a couple of quick filters, so it could switch between different contexts on my view. I'm going to filter menu and find fixed version field. And the first text version I need is 1.0. And I'll create another one for the version 1.1. Now I can switch these filters on and off, quickly going between version 1 and version 1.1, looking at each word belonging to these particular buckets. I mentioned earlier that we have ability to copy structure attributes data from structure columns into the Jira fields. That can be done for almost all structure attributes. An example can be some specific metric calculated in the formula column or progress. So you can open the column settings and select copy to Jira field. Here I need to select the Jira field where this data will be copied into. I'm selecting the text field that I have on my tickets. I hit start copying, confirm the operation, and it should done its job. So now if I go into the ticket itself, I should see in the text field the value from the progress column. This copy to Jira functionality allows to utilize various structure calculation capabilities and then move the results into the Jira tickets. So this value would be available to the whole organization. And finally, let's look at a couple of helpful structure management capabilities we have. We can provide a gradual permission levels to access the structures and apply the changes there. We can grant permissions to Jira groups, project roles, or individual users, and can flexibly stack these permissions on top of each other. We can also create a shareable link to share this particular structure we built with other people in our organization. We can also export our structure into Excel, so we can provide access to that information to people outside of our Jira ecosystem. And exporting will preserve all the information with the hierarchies and columns data the same way you see it in the structure view. Another helpful option is to save in your structure you work most as favorite. So this way you can easily access it in the list of favorites without searching it through the all structures you have. So that concludes our Getting Started with Structure PPM webinar, where we covered the basic functionalities and operations Structure provides. If you want to learn more, we have additional series about more advanced topics like formula or Gantt charts, so I would definitely recommend checking those out if you want to immerse yourself deeply into various use cases Structure can help you with. So thank you everyone for your attention, and we'll see you in the next webinars.
All right, so before we end our webinar, I'm going to talk just a little bit about how Structure integrates with other Tempo apps. First, we have Structure and Gantt charts. Gantt charts for Structure is the #1 extension for Structure. It has all the perks of Structure, such as enabling teams to work in their preferred work methodology and real-time updates on project progress. On top of that, it gives you intuitive visualizations, easy management of task dependencies and milestones, and allocation and management of resources within project timelines. Structure already gives you the best project and program management solution for Jira. Gantt charts elevates your PPM even higher. Next, we have Structure and timesheets. The #1 time tracking software for Jira combines with Structure to create an all-in-one dashboard for both task progress and time spent. With these tools, you can automate the consolidation of timesheet data with project updates, minimize manual efforts, and ensure real-time, accurate insights for decision-making. Next, we have Structure and Capacity Planner. Integrate with Jira's #1 capacity and team management tool to staff smarter, spot discrepancies, and adjust your resources proactively. Using these tools together, you can compare planned time against project timelines, see where teams and team members have time available, and visualize your resources so your entire team can make informed decisions. Lastly, we have Structure and custom charts for Jira. Using these solutions together, teams can generate dynamic charts based on hierarchies from Structure. Merging the robustness of Structure's project tracking with the adaptability of custom charts creates a unified platform where teams can track, manage, and report on projects without toggling between tools. Everything is achievable in one cohesive environment. If you'd like to continue your learning journey with Structure PPM or any other Tempo products, be sure to check out more of our learning resources. Some specific resources that will be helpful for you are a Structure PPM product tour video, our Help Center section dedicated to learning about Structure, former webinars that go deeper into using Structure, the Tempo website, And lastly, our portal to submit questions so you can get the answers that you're looking for. So thank you for watching this on-demand webinar. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please reach out to us and we'll follow up with you soon. Thanks again, and have a great day.